What's up, guys? Okay, the subject of this culture that's going around trying to silence or trying to attack anybody who isn't on this sort of agenda, this sort of belief ideology system. It's got a lot of things that can lead to real biblical events like in Revelations, such as receiving the mark of the beast or making way for the antichrist and making the mark of the beast, making way for the antichrist, and really causing that separation that's going to separate the real believers from the unbelievers, the sheep, right, the lords, right, um, the real Christ followers from the goats, which are Satan's, not really, or the workers of iniquity is what is one of the things that's called in the Bible. And so, for that separation to come, I mean, yes, God, there is a sort of separation that's coming to where people are going to have to pick a side. There's no longer going to be a a sort of kind of gray area to where, right, to where you can kind of believe what you want to believe and live your life and not have to face any sort of kind of confrontation or any sort of accountability or whatever. You can kind of live your life and do whatever you want to do. However, we're seeing slowly this cancel culture is canceling everybody that isn't in line with the different things like the vaccine, different things like homosexuality and there being multiple genders, the LGBTQ people, or yes, or okay, the alphabet people, the people with a bunch of different genders and sexualities. I'm just being real, no hate. This is just reality. This is what it is. And so, are different things like, you know, the Black Lives Matter, Asian hate, and different things like that. People who aren't really supporting those things, supporting different organizations, different ideas, different things that everybody else is trying to do, are like canceled or they're hated or they're rejected by society. And this concept, this thing that they're doing now, has a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future, as talked about in the book of Revelations, where it's talking about like, you know, that the Antichrist is going to require everybody, or is going to require everybody to worship him, or like, he's going to call all like rich and poor, small and great, all these different types of people to take this mark of the beast. And that's kind of like a symbol of like worship, like you're in allegiance. This is what you're aligning yourself with. This is what you believe. This is what you're standing for. And right, because if you're taking this mark, that's also partly like you're also kind of worshiping and you're like agreeing to be in the system. And those who don't worship or who don't take the mark will be killed. And that's kind of already kind of starting now, right? If you're not in agreement with the different things that cancel culture is talking about, you're canceled or you're like rejected. And right now it's starting with celebrities and people at the top, right? People in Hollywood, the different people that aren't necessarily on board with this stuff are being demonized, canceled. For example, we see Adana White. He wasn't on board. He wasn't totally against vaccines, but he wasn't like totally on board, and on board with a lot of with some stuff. But I mean he was fine with vaccines, but he wasn't like there was some stuff that he wasn't really sure about, and like he was kind of demonized. Like he was, there were people that were trying to cancel him, and but I mean, obviously, he's got a lot of money. It's pretty hard to cancel somebody who doesn't have, a whole lot of connections to different things like that. Because if you have a lot of connections, right, it's easy for people to target your connections, people that you work for, to threaten them, and then to use them to get at you. But anyway, so and then we also see people like with Gina Carano. I forgot how you say her last name. Forgive me, but I mean, she played Star Wars, but and then she mentioned something like people are being treated like the Jews in Holocaust or whatever, or something along those lines, or like people like conservatives in the right, people who are on the right are being treated in a certain way. It's like they're being persecuted almost, and it's true, but like so many people didn't like that, and so like she wasn't liked after that. But I mean, obviously there's different things, like they're trying to get her back to come back, I'm hearing. But anyway, all these different examples of people who aren't really fully aligned. I mean, or also Chris Hemsworth and different people like in the Marvel Studios, right? I mean, Chris Pratt and different things like that. Chris Evans, anyway. We're seeing like slowly but surely that like people are kind of being, again, canceled and rejected because they're not fully on board with everything that the left is totally on board with. They're not fully aware, or not fully aware. They're not fully on board with a lot of the stuff that they're pushing, so they're getting canceled. And that's, again, and how this relates to like, times talked about in the book of Revelations and different things like that, in the Bible, is how if you're not taking this mark, if you're not with the system, the beast system, if you're not with them, then you'll be rejected. You won't be able to buy or sell if you don't take this mark. Different things are going to be taken away from you because you're not with this. And so this whole idea of canceling people and hating people who aren't with this, this kind of different things like, different types of spirits and different things like that, are kind of paving the way for this beast system, for this mark of the beast, right? And we're also seeing this with different vaccines. I mean, a lot of people know this is like a very controversial topic of vaccines and different things like that. But we're seeing like, right, like, if you're not vaccinated, right? I mean, there's different things like, you might not be. People might think you're crazy. But anyway, we're seeing this slowly that, like, if you're not on board with this, you're canceled and we don't want you, and just get out of our face. And so, right, and this also kind of goes back to people being lovers of themselves. The Bible talks about this, that in the last days people will be lovers of themselves. And this lovers of themselves idea is kind of being, is in this too, right? Because they're in love with, the people in the cancel culture, mostly leftists. Let's just be real, no hate, but just be real. It's reality. They're so in love with themselves and what they think that a lot of the times they're not willing to be open-minded to other people's viewpoints and to different opinions and different things like that, because of their loves of themselves. Which also proves that this is, we're living like in the end times now. Again, I'm not fully aware of I'm not fully aware of how many years or how many days, but this is most likely the start of it. But anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. That's not the main point. But anyway, with this, right, people being lovers of themselves, people in the left, right, being lovers of themselves and wanting people to feel the same way that they do. Now, anybody who doesn't agree, right, you're hated, you're called racist, you're called crazy, stupid, a lot of nasty stuff. And so again, this is just really paving the way for the B system, right? So this is really paving the way and kind of getting this sort of brainwashing of like, if you're not this, right? And the crazy part is that so many people don't even realize that they're being, that like they're almost, that they're being used in this way. Like, so many people don't even realize that they're being like tricked and being used in this way, which is crazy. And we just and we know that Satan is the father of lies. And so the media is tricking people into trying to fight a fight that's caused by that's caused by a lot of different people. So with this, again, they don't even realize they're being used. This also goes into the magician, right? The magician never reveals his secrets, because if he does, people wouldn't stop coming for him. And so again, this is kind of switching into a little bit different part of the different process of getting to the B system, of how we're going to get there, of how things are moving. But, right, so a magician has a trick, right? But the magician always gets people to look at one part. Sorry. The magician always gets people to look at one area or in some space rather than in another space, right? And a lot of it is to do with psychology and how we think, how our brains are wired. If certain things are highlighted or if certain things are presented to us, we're more likely to look in that direction. And this is a lot of manipulation and different things like that. And so, in order to perform a trick, right, people have to look a certain way. They have to wonder, oh yeah, how did we get here? How did we get here? But then, right, so they do the trick, and then it's like, oh wow, we got here. But it's like, whoa, how did we get here? And the wonder keeps people interested and keeps people hooked, wanting more and more and more. Almost like a drug. Now, not literally a drug, but like a metaphorical drug, right? It's like, oh wow, that tastes so good, and then we want more and more and more. And so so this is kind of how it is with the media, and this is kind of how it is, mostly with the media, is almost this trick. I mean, the media along with other, maybe more private or other organizations, but anyway, that's kind of how it is. There's a trick, then the people don't always realize how we got here, and it's like, it's like, I'm so amazed, like, oh yeah, I just heard about this, I just heard about that. And it's like, they want it because there's drama, and they want to hear more. It keeps people hooked, again, like a drug, just like I mentioned in one of my previous videos. That there is, again, this hook, and people wanting more, and like, oh, what's happening now? Oh, what's happening now? What's happening now? Because a lot's happening within a short period of time, and people feel like they need to, which again, it's good to stay aware and up to date on stuff, and to be aware of what's happening. But people, again, wanting to be aware, wanting to know what's going to happen, and to stay up to date on stuff, so they have to keep coming back for more and more and more and more, right? And so, and then that creates views and different rooms for ads, and that generates revenue, different things like that. The views, people have to have a reason to keep coming back to your channel and to keep watching your stuff, right? But or your news broadcasts or your company, different things like that. And so there needs to be a reason for people to come back to you, right? And so this is what the news has to offer, right? The news keeps people updated, keeps people informed, keeps people up to date on what's going on. And so now with all of this stuff happening, there has to be a reason, again, for the views, for the revenue to generate all of that, and to keep in business is to keep the business afloat. Again, people have to keep coming back for more and more. This is why you see a lot of times with different drug dealers, right? A lot of them make the substances or the drugs addictive. They put an addictive substance in them to keep people trying back for more and more, and to create a financial security. And to keep it going, right? I mean, this is just real, right? If you have a business, you have to keep generate more and more content, different news stations, right? But then drama and controversy really intrigues people. I mean, this is just who we are. I mean, a lot of, right? You see a lot of times with reality shows, right? Now, reality shows might not be as popular, or they might, or whatever, but they might not be as popular, but again, the drama, ooh, what's going on, and then gossip, right? I mean, gossip and different things like that, it's like, oh, I'm curious now, what's happening, and this curiosity nature about us keeps us addicted, keeps us hooked. And so I think that's the video. And yeah, so just, this is why it's good to think for yourself and to really understand different things. Or this is why it's good to not always be so caught up in what the media is telling you, because they have an agenda to push. And all this different stuff, hearing about the injustice, hearing about injustice going on, it rightfully makes people mad, right? And then it's like, oh, what's happening now? Oh, what's happening now? What's happening now? And again, it's the spirit of manipulation. Or I think it might even be Jezebel's spirit, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it might be. Anyway, just wanting back for more, trying to manipulate and like, hey, this is what's going on. It's, oh, that's crazy, right? And it gets them fueled up and fired up, and it's like, oh, if you don't hate this, I mean, again, it's like the brainwashing is doing it without people realizing it. It's so deceptive, so deceptive. I'm not saying that there isn't that injustices don't happen, or I'm not saying that everything that the media is. I'm not saying that everything that the media is saying is false, but there is a lot that the media does say that is false. And again, the agenda pushing. I'm not sure where you're on with politically, how much you're aware of, but I mean, there is an agenda, and the media is pushing it, but it's also pushing stuff with different companies, and different companies are getting on board, and it's all being connected, and kind of everything is kind of being used to make room for this beast system, and they're trying to get as many people on board as possible to push this thing. And then also, this also makes room for the mark of the beast, and whether a chip is part of it or whether it's not, I don't know that, but to have like a beast system, to have like people from every nation, different things like that, and different things like China and all these different things. They're trying to get everybody on board to really push this thing and to push this beast system. It's all connected. It's all working, and it's all working in getting people. It's all working together to a common goal, like a team. There's alliances. So yeah, that's like the gist of it and how it connects, and like kind of what it's leading to, and what it's going to end up doing. So I'm trying to tell you now, as kind of like a watchman, I'm trying to tell you like a weatherman, like, hey, it's gonna rain, so that you can be careful not to get caught up in it so soon, to where by the time that comes, it's gonna seem like nothing. But then being aware of everything now and having that outside perspective, like that perspective that's clear, and having a different perspective by being aware of certain things is going to make you less likely to fall or to give in or to surrender. Because the more that you know now, the better off you're going to be. So that's, again, one of the purposes of my channels, or of my channel, of this channel. Anyway, I think that's it. God bless you. Have a great day.